the other expected values, which are not monetary. Okay, you had a question.
It's just a logistics one for if we have subsidies coming in because it's a societal good project, would you list that as a revenue or would that be somewhere else?
We'll get to that. So, normally what we would do is we would look at sources of finance. So when you start a business, you need to invest in the startup. And there is a specific way of doing it, which is, let's say, internationally recognized. And that will show up in the balance sheet. We will go over that. Then, how to use financial records, profit and loss account, balance sheet, cash flow statement. We see if we can, normally we would look at how you could interpret and analyze accounts. So what is some ratios that could be relevant. And understanding the importance of cash flow to a business. I always say cash is much more important than profit. Yeah, so what would be the reason for that? Why is the cash flow statement much more urgent to let's say, to control your cash flow is much more important than talking about profit? Why would that be?
You are growing too, so you're investing also. So you don't just keep your money, but you're doing something with it?
Mm-hmm. But what would be the, so basically if I would do something with it, let's say invest, that would mean money is leaving my company or my organization.
Because there's also money coming in, so you have these
Hopefully.
there are things happening.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
And what you would want is that more money is coming in the right time. Because what happens if you lack money? If there's not enough money in the company?
Then you have to sell some things, or you have to let people go, or you're getting bankrupt?
Yeah, that's basically what happens. Yes, at the moment I cannot pay my bills anymore, I'm technically already going bankrupt. So a company could be very profitable in the end, let's say in 2 or 3 years, but could lack or be out of business because of cash problems in the beginning. So what would be the normal resolution for a cash problem? So you see, what we try to do is we try to schedule it in time so that we can see when we are in need of cash and what would then be a solution. So the sales haven't come in, I did my investments and the money is not yet coming in. How do we bridge that gap?
By cash flow, you see how many money you are going. You cannot have profit, but you see how there money around in the company.
Okay, but for example, I start now. I do the investment in February, and the first money coming in is in August. Suppose I start an event. The event is in August, and all my customers actually pay in August. How do I bridge the period between?
Alone?
Yes, exactly. That's one of the reasons you would apply for a loan. Yeah, so I would go to the bank, I would explain, this is my concept, this is why I need to pay some stuff now, invest, but future cash flows will come with a certainty, uncertainty aspect to it. That's also maybe a problem. But bank, please can you help me and allow me an overdraft or give me a loan. An overdraft, everybody knows what it is? And Dutch roodstaan.
Sorry, what?
Roodstaan.
Roodstaan. Oh,
Yeah.
roodstaan.
Yeah? So that on your normal account you're allowed to go in the negative. That's an overdraft.
Oh, yeah.
So usually when you have a business account, you also have an arrangement with the bank that they allow you an overdraft to, I don't know, 25,000 or 50,000 euros. So you don't have to come in all the time when you need some extra money. It is already organized. But of course the interest that you pay on that facility to have that option is probably very high. Yeah, that's the consequence of using your overdraft capacity.
Hi.
Welcome. I just
Yeah, sorry, I was in
no problem.
Took a bit longer to call.
I just explained that we do some financial stuff then do maybe some consulting,
Yeah,
and then switch back if necessary, or we finish the finance and then.
yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah, you're also probably pressured for time.
Well, no, I have the time now until 4 at least to do the feedback sessions. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've, the main reason was for today to get the cold out of the air, or to get the unclearness about things that you have to hand in, your assignment, you're working on things, are you on the right track? To have a moment to look at that. Basically just to get all your questions and to look at your plans and what you're doing, and to see if you're on the right track with what you're doing. To have a consultancy moment.
Okay, but next week is already the presentations, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so otherwise we don't have any moment if we only do consulting.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay, but next week we have 2 sessions, right? At least I have them in my schedule. Or is that the wrong week?
No,
No. It's next week, and then the week after that is the
the 18th is.
18th is the deadline.
Okay, but am I correct that
Six.
next week we have 2 sessions?
Yeah, that's possible. Let me see.
Because otherwise we can do the, yeah, depends also a little bit what you want, if the financial part is,
I think it's nice to have the financial part now because
I
we're
We
busy
don't have
with
any.
I have a question. It's connected with finance and consultancy,
Mhm.
because I had meeting with Sophia, with her, and we understood, and for our group, that we don't have any financial documents at all.
Mhm.
We don't have annual report, we don't have financial reports, nothing. So only what we know, it's in study guide that 85% it's
Yeah.
profit from performances, we have 1/3 of this it's subsidies, and we have 15% it's from daytime of working of Park Theatre. I just wanted to ask if it is still okay to do financial part, but we don't have any numbers at all, just nothing. So as I understood, we should do how much is available, and this is more important than cash flows or something with concrete numbers. But can we do financial part without any numbers at all?
well, what we could do is that we look at what I would call the delta, then how does it change? So how does it, what would be the impact, so we don't have the real figures to underpin what we do, but you could have an argument, okay, we want to do this event, and that is going to cost us 10,000 euros, and the revenue will be 20,000 euros. So we can at least do a sort of a mini analysis, whether the event or the intervention or the idea that you have, what would be the financial impact of the idea that you have. So I think that this as far as we can go.
Or it costs 10,000 euros and it generates 0 euros, but a lot of value. And in the context of the assignment and in the context of the nature of the organization, that makes sense to do. Like in the end, the pitch that you're giving is like an investment pitch, but it's an investment pitch from the perspective of the client, from the perspective of the stakeholder. So you're basically giving a pitch based with financial backing on what you are proposing, what it will cost, and what it will deliver.
Yes.
And it's up to you to decide to convince the committee that this is a worthwhile idea, that this concept that you have is also feasible, that it will generate enough value in terms of money or in terms of other value. That's really up for discussion. And then it's that's the discussion. So you don't need their statements.
Yes. Also, have said that we don't need to account the full cost. Or, for example, we are changing concept. We are doing new business model canvas. So we are changing everything. We just suggest a new concept. And if I understand right, we can't account how much it will cost this concept, because concept is a value. So we can't account how much.
Yeah, but that's what I meant with my delta approach, so that we isolate the initiative that you have. You don't have to take care of fixed costs or stuff like that. Let's just assume that the current business can take care of all existing running costs. So we try to isolate what is the monetary effect, if there is any, of your approach. And I would still argue if the effect is, let's say, heavily negative, yeah, we should at least discuss what would be a possible solution. Because you can have the biggest ideas in terms of social innovation or social impact, but if the net effect of the idea is that it's going to cost 100,000 euros, somehow that money has to be leveraged. Then we need to talk about, hey, we need a subsidy to cover this, or we need a sponsor to cover this, but we need a way, source of finance. So if we generate a loss, it's also, I feel it's our obligation as consultants, Imagineering graduates, that we are able to think about, okay, how could you then solve the negative effect if you really, really want to harvest the positive effects, but you cannot monetize them.
And also I wanted to ask, we have some key activities in Business Canvas. It's actually part of our Business Canvas. And do we need to account how much these activities will cost? Because of course we can use delta to the whole Business Canvas, but do we need to account this? Or it's okay just to suggest and say,
If it's part of your cost structure,
Yes.
then it's,
I would argue it's much more important that we identify what is happening than that we get the figures right.
But we can get later on, I think it's good, we will sit together with the groups individually. You can also put it on the table, show this is it, this is what we're doing, then we can go a little bit more in depth in that. I think that's better than now for general discussion, right?
Yeah, for me it would be good if you, if I can see that you identified, hey, there will be an effect or a cost that will come out of this, our idea, and then that you cannot quantify it because you don't have the data, that's not relevant.
And what you get in sessions like this, if you talk in general terms, and that's also what you encountered, if in general terms we talk about what is expected, and in general terms we talk about, okay, you should do more or less this, and this would be somewhat okay. We need to make it more specific for the things that you're working on, to have a look at it, and to point, okay, this direction is okay, and if you do it more or less in this way, then it will be justified enough. So, but then, for that moment, I would suggest we take a moment to sit at a table, and
that's why it's
go
good
through
to
what you're doing, the two of us together and you guys, and then by group, just evaluate where you are and do it like that. Shall we do that?
I just checked the schedule, or Iris did, but this is our last.
Yeah, it's the last one, right? The only one that I have now is the whole day blocked, and that will be the presentations. Okay. But again, let's look at the end of the day. If we need an extra moment, I have time in my schedule, we can find a moment.
Yes,
somewhere,
that
if we
would be
need
nice.
it. Yeah? Okay. What I also always try to explain is the relevance of this financial statements, and I want to make a difference between a customer, a guest, and a fan. And the customer, I relate to a customer is, would be in the business model canvas, it would be a sort of a cold type of relationship. Of course, you want to service the customer, but you don't want to add a lot of extras. Whereas if the customer changes and becomes more like, the relationship becomes more like a guest relationship, you are already willing to do the extra stuff, to go the extra mile to service or please them, like you would treat a guest at your house. So that already goes beyond what you would do for a customer. A customer would be really like need-based, and for me the guest approach and the fan approach is much more value-based. And the fan is sort of the loyal guest. And if you can generate fan behavior with your customers, that is highly valued because there's a lot of money involved. First of all, they come back, loyalty. You don't have to invest in marketing expenditures because they come back anyway. That's typically fan behavior. And they are willing to pay a premium within their fandom, so to speak. And if you would take sports as an example, if I'm a big fan of Barcelona, and that's one of the ways that Barcelona gets financed, is by selling shirts. And they switch once or twice a year from the away shirt and the home team shirt, which all fans buy the new shirt. The value of that is hundreds of millions of euros, just in terms of merchandise. But it's typical fan behavior. They want to have the latest shirt, no matter what the cost. Yeah, and they're willing to pay, I don't know, the cost price could be, I don't know, 30 euros, not even that. But you pay for it 120 euros. So there's a lot of value that you can activate if you can activate fan behavior. Yeah, we talked about this the last time already. So the business model is how you create value, and the revenue model is about capturing it and monetizing it. Yeah, I think I gave the example of the newspaper. The business model of the newspaper over the last 100 years has been more or less the same. But the revenue model has changed from selling newspapers in the street to subscriptions to even free or advertisement paying for the newspaper. So where the money comes from can change, where the business model then could stay the same. Another concept that we have to discuss, and I think that is probably relevant for Parktheater as well. Where is the difference of value and price? And in between somewhere is the relevance of money. So the value of something, when does value become a price, in your opinion? What is required for, you generate value with your company, but for example also Parktheater, and when can you monetize it? So when does it turn into a price?
I'm not sure that I'm right, but I think price it's when people come to Parktheater and pay for tickets for performance.
Mm-hmm.
But value is that they come a lot of times to performances because they like performances from Parktheater. Is it value?
Yeah, it's close to the correct answer. So the value is that they want to come to the performance. The performance generates the value, but the willingness to pay for it, that is, and the price that you pay for it, that is dictated by whether there's a sort of a marketplace. An exchange, I give you the value of the performance, and you give me the value that's connected to the money. But the price is the level where we meet. Yeah, so if there's scarcity, prices go up, demand and supply issues. So even though we cannot maybe capture the value that is connected to the Parktheater, we should always keep in mind that if we could generate a marketplace, even if it's virtual or online, that could help us maybe monetize it, something in the future. But that could be part of the concept as well.
I was asking, in this example, is it a sustainable business? When we talk about the value being the performance, or the value being people are loyal to the Parktheater.
Mm-hmm. Well, loyalty obviously also has a connection with sustainability. Yeah, if I know in advance that what I create in terms of value and people will come back for it, that means, yeah, it's almost implicit that it then becomes part of my sustainable effort of, let's say, existing. Maybe not sustainable in ecological sense, but sustainable in the sense that my organization can
Offer security and loyal customers.
exist.
Yeah, because I thought you asked us when does value becomes.
Mhm.
So I didn't understand if the performance are just a product that is being.
No, what I actually wanted to convey is that where demand and supply meet, so if there's a marketplace, however it looks, then there's also the issue of price. Because if you would have performances and nobody shows up, nobody wants to consume, then price is not relevant at all if nobody shows up. But if only a few people show up, then prices are probably low. But if much more people show up than your capacity, then you could ask more for your ticket price. Yeah, so that's more or less the dynamics and the relationship between value and price. Who is interested in the profit of a company?
Investors?
Mm-hmm.
All stakeholders.
All the stakeholders. I hope not.
No?
And a monetary profit.
Yeah, so no, yeah, profit. Baseline profit.
I think the CEOs.
Because?
Well, I hear a no, so I'm not.
No, why, okay, that's,
Well,
the CEOs
At
need,
yeah,
need,
because
it's
what
their
I thought-
responsibility, right?
what I thought is that at the end, if there's a lot of profit, that they can just put it on their private account.
Oh yeah, to get their salaries higher.
Okay, but how
That's
do,
true, right? Because they can divide it, and then the people who are working there or something.
who is the stakeholder that can, there's a pile of money laying there, that's the profit of last year. Which stakeholder can say, this is mine?
The CEO.
No.
No.
The owner.
The owner, here, the owner.
Yeah, that's what I mean with CEO.
Yeah, but the CEO in general is not the owner.
Okay, well, I mean the owner.
Yeah.
That's what
CEO,
I meant. No, but that's what I meant, honestly.
Chief Executive Owner.
Yeah, owner.
As staff, I'm not interested in the company I work in doing for profit.
It's not yours anyway. You could argue if there's a lot of profit, maybe I can talk to the CEO that I can get higher wages. So,
But if I don't, if the company doesn't have any profit, then I might lose my job.
yeah, so, but I mean, you would be happy with it, maybe with zero profit.
If the employee has, besides the fixed salary, a bonus or.
Yeah, so if you have flexible remuneration, so that you get a part of the profit, then of course you're also highly interested in the profit. But in general, profit would go to the owner or the investors. Yeah, but the investors are owners if they did it in the proper way. An investor would, that's the big difference between, well, maybe you can explain it. What is the difference between an investor and somebody that gives you a loan?
It's what we were talking last time about,
Mhm.
that investors need to have profit. They need to have their money back
Yeah.
as fast as they can, or how long your contract is. They care about money. They care about their money back. But about loan, it's a more long-term period, and they care more about interest of their loan. So you will give your money back,
Mhm.
but with payment, how they earn money in general.
Yeah, so the bank would give you a loan, you repay the loan with interest, but the bank never becomes the owner. An investor gives you money to do what you want to do, and they are entitled to part of the profit, but if they want to take their money out, that's possible, but normally the money that an investor brings in stays in the company, because that's the way to finance it.
Do
Yeah.
they also take risks? Like if they went bankrupt?
Yeah, so by definition, investors or owners run the risk of the company. The bank only runs a risk if the company goes bankrupt. Yeah, so the risk part of the company is always connected to the ownership, or most. Let's skip this one. Maybe for some insight, we have accounting principles. That is where, it's not that relevant now, but in general it is. We have the accrual principle. That is when you try to connect a cost to a period. So then it is really irrelevant that a cost is booked in a specific year. That is more or less the US way. And the European way is much more the matching principle, where you try to connect the cost to the sales that you make. So if, maybe to explain, if I sell a bottle of beer, I try to connect the costs that are related to selling this bottle of beer. That's the matching principle. So the purchasing cost of the bottle and, I don't know, the cost of insuring it or keeping it in inventory or whatever, I try to connect that to the sales of the bottle of beer. If I go to the accrual principle, I only look at when did I make the sale, is it 2020 or 2019, and that is where I book it. Yeah? The consequence of the difference is that, who could answer that question? But it's really, that would be really good. What's the consequence of changing the principle?
I don't know. The way you account.
Yeah, and then what? And then what happens?
You have a lot of work.
And then what happens?
I don't know, I'm just trying here, help me.
Out of the cost.
Yes, and then what happens?
If cost to period, we will including maybe like the depreciation and this kind of
Mhm.
things, depreciation by pound.
But if it has an influence on the cost,
Maybe you
what
will
is the
do
other
more
influence
like-
then by definition?
I don't know.
If I have more or less cost, because that you're right about that. Yeah, that means there is an influence on the profit. So the US way of accounting shows another profit in 2019 than the European way. Over a stretch of time, it's similar, of course. When you look at it over 10 years, then all the costs are made at some moment or connected to some sales, and then the effect is gone. But if you would look at just 2019 and 2020, there would be a difference in reported profits.
And the effect on the culture is big.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but
Budget-orientated organizations like we are also, it's good to have an invoice at the end of the year when the budgets are still need to be emptied. That also does something with the culture of the organization.
what Thijs means.
It's budget-orientated more, but
Yeah, so what Thijs means, if you are, for example, an NGO or in the public domain, you're usually funded with budgets, and what you actually are, you are a money spending machine. You, a normal organization is a money generating machine.
like a normal company would start, that's how you think of business, a normal company starts at the beginning of the year with zero, and then they think, we have a year long to earn as much money as possible.
Yeah.
So this whole year, if we see an opportunity, then we all work really hard and we seize the opportunity and then we generate income.
Yeah.
But a budget-oriented organization, they begin like us, they begin the beginning of the year, Budos for example, we begin the beginning of the year with 60 million euros,
Yeah.
70 or somewhere around
You
that,
have to.
and then we have a year to spend it.
Yes.
Yeah, so a commercial company needs revenue, needs sales, otherwise there's no money coming in.
And what I have experienced a lot here is that what you see is that it does something to opportunity driven, to be driven by opportunity. Like if we see an opportunity, because we start the year with 60 million euros and have a year to spend it, the first question that our employees ask when we see an opportunity is, how much time and how much money do I get or do I have to seize this opportunity? And if that number is not sufficient, I will not seize the opportunity. Where in a normal company, you would start with zero and get time to earn. There's an opportunity, you think, okay, we all work really hard, we all do our best. Maybe we seize the opportunity and then we get the income. That's and the effect of that on the type of organization that you are is immense.
Yeah. So where it usually shows is the lack of entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
So a company that is steered by budgets usually has big problems in thinking or operating entrepreneurial. So identifying opportunities
Yeah.
and then seizing upon them.
And now I got a question for you guys. What do you think is the positive effect of that? For this sounds negative.
Yeah.
Budget-oriented companies have a non-entrepreneurial perspective or a non-entrepreneurial culture. But what is the positive explanation? Why does that exist then? Why would not just cancel it and make every company working for profit?
Part of the stability that comes with long-term funding.
Stability, yeah, true.
Less risk.
I also
Less
feel
risk,
while working with NGOs, you feel that the competition is less than other.
Less competition.
Yeah, because everyone is working to use this money for another
course.
cause. and
That's
not
it.
for their.
That's the thing. Because our employees might say they look at the opportunity and they look at I have limited time and money to seize opportunity. Even if the opportunity would generate a lot of income, which they can do nothing with, which just disappears in air, it doesn't directly affect them. It allows them to look at opportunity from the content of the opportunity. So our teachers can look at a project and they would definitely, if I have a project from which we can learn a lot, and we can develop knowledge and get more knowledge in and improve education, but if we could break even, or we have an opportunity where we could learn nothing and the students would suffer but we earn a lot of money, then every member of our organization will choose for the one where we don't earn money but make education better. And that is the culture, that is the advantage or the positive explanation of a non-entrepreneurial organization. And I think that in a theater, the construct where there's partly subsidies and there's also a goal that is other than earning money, that culture has to be somehow balanced.
But I do feel that NGOs as well, they seek opportunities to have funding, so they have an approach of an entrepreneurship.
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah.
Because they need to find a project that...
Yeah. But once their budget is covered,
you need like an entrepreneurial guy
yeah,
to get the money, and then when you have it, you need the organization to spend it. Then you need the content organization to spend it.
Within the company,
Yeah.
like they develop those proposals.
yeah, for example,
that
but
from-
fundraising or subsidies or whatever. But once they have established the budget, they sort of stop. There is no power to keep on going. Maybe an explanation that could be helpful. If I have a hospital and it's run in a not-for-profit way, then in October the we budgeted 1,000 operations and we put a price on it, and the budget is gone in October. Then we don't do any more operations between October and December.
But you can always have something for other opportunities.
No, because then we stop. And we wait till the next budget cycle starts, so the 1st of January we will start operating again. But if the hospital would operate under market conditions, and there is an opportunity to do an extra operation in October, we do it. Because then we get the revenue. Yeah, so that is probably the best way to explain it. If we connect it to, let's say, the Park Theater, which is maybe semi-funded, semi-commercial, I think it would be much easier in not-for-profit organizations to implement, let's say, the social dynamics or good causes or other value creation that is not necessarily monetized. Like the example that Thijs just gave. If we do a project, for example, with students, and there is a huge learning effect, but almost no monetary effect, we still value it very highly, although there is no monetary part connected to it. But we can learn a lot, or it's really relevant for our students, then we tend to do it. We are inclined to do it much faster than just looking at the monetary aspects of it. So I think that not-for-profit opens the door a little bit more for social enterprising, stuff like that. So if you are in a hard commercial business, yeah, then profit is at least relevant for the bottom line. You can only allow yourself to be charitable if you make enough profit, and then be charitable. But first you have to go for the profit. So this was old school when it was, but I couldn't find the way to change it into Burex. So you still see NHTV logo, but that's just my lack of IT knowledge to change the background. Yeah, so this relates again to the private investor, the bank, the owner, shareholder, and the suppliers. Why would suppliers be interested in how you operate financially?
Because it also connects to their sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know if your company will keep on purchasing from them like
Yeah.
on a yearly basis, or is it once? Or
Yeah.
is it-
So if I'm a supplier, I want to know about how the, let's say, the money-making capacity of the company that I supply to is, because they have to pay me for what I deliver. So that will be the first thing that they will maybe stop paying me as a supplier if they get into trouble. So knowing how good or how risky their business is, This is very relevant if you take it from the supplier perspective. Yeah. When do we know how we perform? There are only two ways. That is looking at the competition and how are we doing relative to the competition and how are we doing relative to ourselves, for example, over the last 2 or 3 years. What you would want to see is at least a stable situation, if not improvement, if you compare yourself to your performance of the last 3 to 5 years. And that was one of the things that I also, but it's very difficult probably to get it, but it would be really interesting to look at how Park Theatre operates when you compare them to similar theatres or cities of the same size. How is then their performance? What are they doing?
So then you need the numbers of the Park Theatre as well?
Yeah, so you would need much more numbers, not only from Park Theatre, but also maybe from the theatre in Tilburg or in Rotterdam or whatever.
Yes.
And then you can make an analysis, hey, this theatre is running to 50% capacity and this theatre is running 80% capacity. What is going on here? Or what can the 50% one learn from the 80% one?
Even if they have different visions.
Yeah, so that also needs to be part of the comparison, of course. But let's say if the main business of a theatre is putting persons in seats, and all the rest is maybe irrelevant, then you can compare them to at least similar.
You can compare categories also. So you compare the category of visitors to
One of the first comments from class was not to focus on increasing the ticket or using the capacity to the max, but to connect the city with the theater and be a platform and other of qualitative goals. Does it mean we still need to do like benchmarking on
No.
average tickets?
No.
And
The only thing that I think what it comes down to in the end is you will have your concepts, which we will discuss in half an hour or so, and what it probably will do is it will generate costs, your concept. At least I cannot imagine at the moment that you have such brilliant concepts that create a lot of social value but don't create or generate any cost. So, and if it's true, it's perfect, but let's say if we identify with this initiative we can reach much more, let's say low wage people or people that are dependent on endowments from the city or whatever, or low income people in general, if we can reach them with the initiative that you come up with, it still will probably cost money. And somehow, for example, if you want to do it in the Park Theatre, you will need the capacity that is part of the construct. For example, you can only operate your idea in daytime, because at night there will be performances. So there will be limitations that are connected to operational management issues, connected to, that will give you borders in which your idea can exist or not. But we don't have to get the figures correct. As long as we get an idea what is going on in general, and that it is not forgotten that there might be side effects that we also have to take into consideration, but maybe not make them prominent now, and let's focus on the positive effects of your ideas, most.
And that's more important than making a financial analysis.
Yeah. At least with this assignment, I would argue that's the way to go. Otherwise, if we will drown if we try to solve the financial issues, and then we will never get to, let's say, at the core of your interventions. So, what is available usually is, and that if we would look for it, we can also find it for Park Theatre, if it's not already in the data that you have. But you would have balance sheets and you would have income statements. And to a certain degree, you can connect them and analyze them and try to figure out what is going on, what is the reality behind the figures, and what does it tell you. And then you can make calculations. These are typical financial terms that will come up if you in the future also have an assignment with the company. They will want to talk to you, or if you are smart, you can already identify the issues beforehand so that you can explain how your transformation plan is going to impact liquidity, solvency, or the rate of return. Then, of course, you are first in line to get assignment, if you can speak their language. And maybe you remember that was the main goal of this approach, was you being able to come up with really brilliant transformational ideas, but you have to talk to people that are, like me, blue. Yeah, I have no imagination, I'm not creative at all, I want to see the figures. So you have to convince me, being the manager, the CEO of the company, that your idea is a good one. That means that to a certain degree you have to be able to speak to me and talk my language a bit. So, who knows what liquidity is, if you also see the other ones? And what's then the difference?
Well, you got liquid access to subs and you can turn into money pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And you have some actors which are less liquid, which means that it will take more time for them to turn into money.
Yeah. Did everybody understand?
Is that what we call een beetje liquide middelen?
Yeah.
Ja,
and liquiditeit. Yeah. So in general, but it's exactly what you said, but you are already, let's say, under the radar. Liquidity is about your capacity to pay back your short-term debts. So short-term debts would be the wages that you have to pay next month or next week, or the taxes that you have to pay. So payments that you have to do within the next couple of weeks, months. The time frame in general is 1 year. If it's within the next year, then it's a liquidity issue. Yeah, so you have to solve that, because you must be able to pay that bill when it comes. If you have a company, then not being able to pay your phone bill is a liquidity problem. Yeah? Solvency is connected to your capacity to pay your long-term debts. That means if I have a loan from the bank, that means that in 2021 I have to repay 30,000 euros. So I have to now plan that I have that money available in 2021, but it's long term. The difference is the bank cannot come in 2020 and force you to pay the 2021 part before the due date. Yeah, so you can plan it much better. So liquidity, your short-term management, is much more of a problem if you fail there than your solvency. Yeah, in the end, if your solvency consistently is not okay, then you're also in trouble, of course. But liquidity needs to be managed on a, let's say, weekly basis. If there is no money in the bank anymore, yeah, you cannot pay next month's wages. And then everything stops. The rate of return is a reflection of how good you are doing with your investments, or how well you are able to turn your assets into a profit. Yeah, so every company has assets. Like Park Theatre will have, well, the whole venue is their asset. And they need to turn the venue into a profitable enterprise. So the way they get their money back, that's expressed in the rate of return. And that can be diversified in many ways. That's not relevant now. But it gives you information about the profitability. And liquidity and solvency are not about profitability, they are about cash. Are you able to pay your debts? or your obligations. I will make sure that you get these slides, and then you can go through them, and if you have questions. I just tried to... So this, just to recognize this is what a balance sheet would look like in general. And it always has the same structure. So these are all your assets, and we usually make a division into the fixed assets and to the current assets and the liquid assets. These liquid and current are usually put together as well. So liquid assets here means this is really like money. The difference is that the fixed asset, this is everything that you put to use in your company. That would be on the left side of the balance sheet. The difference is the fixed assets, you use them more than 1 year. So that would be a car, that would be a building, that would be a machine, that would be office equipment, whatever. And the stock or the inventory and the debtors and the liquid assets, they are part of the working capital, and they change on a day-to-day basis. If I sell something, stock will go down or inventory will go down, and liquid assets will go up if I sell it for cash. Yeah, and debtors are only in between inventory and cash. Because debtors, what would happen with debtors would be, I sell something to you, then you owe me, and in 4 weeks you pay me. So what happens first is inventory goes down, you get the product, and you owe me. That's the way we would book it. And 4 weeks later, we rip apart the I owe you, and you give me the cash. So it's only an instrument to make trade available or possible. There is no added value in having the opportunity to have a debtor situation. Yeah? On the right hand side we can always have the same structure, equity, long-term debts and the short-term debts or liabilities. That's always the same structure. So, see if we can figure out some stuff here. What would be the value of this company? If this company would become available for you to buy, what would you pay for it? Sorry?
160?
160? Who agrees? So would you pay the value of the total assets? Or would you pay the value of the equity? Because with the assets also come the liabilities. Yeah, so I think that it would definitely not be the assets. You could argue it should be the equity capital.
Why?
The rest is debt.
The rest is actually not yours. It's also not from the company. I owe the bank.
What is the Dutch term?
It's like the perspective, if you have a credit card with a limit of 1,000 euros, you can say I have 1,000 euros to spend, but you don't have it. So here the long-term debt and the short-term debt, you have that money, but it's not yours.
Yeah. Okay, so you, okay.
So it's not part
So
of
it's-
the value of the company.
The assets are financed. 80 of that is financed by third parties, so I still owe them. I need to repay that. And only 80 is mine. So the value of the company, you could argue, if you look at the balance sheet, should be 80. What would be a reason why it would be less than 80?
Is equity capital uitgemogen?
Yeah. Yeah, so it definitely should not be more than equity. If you would pay more than equity for this company, that would be not smart.
It depends on what the company does, what they did in the last years.
Yeah, but okay, now how could it be less than equity?
What do you mean?
Okay, if I if my max would be 80, why would I pay 50?
Are we now selling the company or?
Yeah, so
Oh.
whatever you want to do with it, it has a value. And you
Yeah.
want to sell it, or you want to continue it, or whatever. Suppose you want to sell it.
Yeah,
So it's for sale, it's mine, you
Yeah.
want to buy it.
yeah.
Why would you only offer 50?
If it's getting worse and worse every year, but it's not really profitable anymore, then I would pay less
Yeah, of course.
because I have to restore
Yeah.
it.
So future profitability, having a lot of sales, available or not, would definitely influence the price. Yeah, if you see it, profits going down, or you can already envisage that future profits will be negative, losses, then you would incorporate that, of course.
Yes, because I see like the debt is more than the cash flow in, because the cash flow in which is the total asset is only 60 and the total debt is 80.
Yeah, what you now try to do is look at the liquidity, but that's not part of the answer. But what you're right in the sense that so the 50 and the 10 together is 60, and the short-term debts are 20. So that actually is a good situation. So the current ratio for this company would be 3. That is where you compare the, let's say, short-term assets, the way you use them, resources, and the short-term debts. And that should be at least better than 1. Usually we would expect it to be 2 or more. But that's not necessarily here. But if I'm forced to sell the assets, what would happen? Would I still be able to make 160? So the valuation on paper of the assets is 160, but in the marketplace I would probably not get 160. Yeah, suppose here are cars or machines, and I'm forced to sell them. So the value is 80 of the machine, but I need to sell it today or tomorrow. I will only get 50 maybe, or 40, if I'm forced to sell it. If I'm not going to use it, but I'm forced to sell it. So the paper valuation is probably much more inflated than the real value if you have to sell it. So if I buy this company and I want to get rid of it again, I would have to look at other figures than the continuation of the company. Yeah, so in that sense, figures are a bit complicated. These are all kinds of ratios, doesn't matter that much. Yeah, so maybe again to the relevance of the cash flow and compared to the profit is. Cash flow is relevant because it allows you to pay for all the stuff that you need to pay for on a day-to-day basis, like wages or the telephone bill or whatever, but it also takes care of the repayment of loans, and it allows you to make new investments. If you have money in your pocket or money in the bank as a company, that is sort of a decision still to be made of a new investment. So if you see profitable opportunities to create a new activity, for example also for Park Theatre, if they have enough money in the bank, they can invest in your ideas. If they don't, it will be very difficult to pay for the ideas that you probably have. So having a good cash flow position gives you as a company a lot of freedom, because it's a decision not made yet. As long as the money is there, I can still think about, I can spend it next week in this initiative, or maybe if I wait another week there will be a better initiative or whatever. So it gives you freedom of making investment decisions. Sometimes you have to replace, of course. If I have to buy a new car, I already have a car in the company but I want to replace it, that also needs cash. And if there are shareholders, you sometimes have to pay them some money to keep them happy. This we talked about, this as well. Maybe then now it's a good time to go to the consultancy
Yeah.
part and see what issues pop up that either have or do not have a financial question related to it. If it does, we pick it up and we go central. If it does not, we stay in the subgroups. So, you know what the subgroups are, right?
You know what group you're in?
Hopefully. Okay. How are we going to do this? We sit together and we listen in on the ideas together and give feedback, or they come to you and they come to me and we rotate?
No, I think we do together. I think that's best.
Okay.
And then,
Do you want to like just sit here on the table?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can control.
yeah, we can have one group in the room at a time, and then.
That's nice.
Are all groups here?
Part of it.
No.
Okay.
All the groups are there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Then we take our office.
Then we take our office, and then which group will go first?
I would like to, because I'm just here for
Fun.
For feedback.
fun.
But you're the only one of your group, or?
No, but
Okay.
I'm not in this class.
No, I know.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so then we start there, and then
How long you want to take?
there's 4 groups, huh?
Three.
Sorry, 3 groups. Yeah, then we have, let's say
15 minutes.
15 minutes per group.
And then
And who wants to go second? Shall we go second?
I need to leave at 4.
Okay, then you can go second, and I'll go third.
No, there's 3 groups, and we have 15 minutes, and we're done by 4.
Okay.
Before 4. Okay,
That's fine.
let's go. I always do need coffee though, so ik heb opgezocht.
ja, zwart.
Thank you.
I changed my flight. They're gonna let me know in 4 working days.
Like this, like that.
Yeah, that's what
They need authorization.
You change,
authorization.
you change.
You have to go
I know.
yourself.
Yes, I know, but you changed it all, or you did refund, or what they need.
No, you need authorization. And then we're gonna, then they will give it Probably.
Alright, okay, because I was, oh, thank you. Yes, because I
Stop,
was.
cheese.
Haircut. It's, that's good, right? Haircut. I wrote them, but I think that English will not work with you. I will call today. You can do the same. Just a little about the phone.
Iets in je haar gedaan wat je anders niet doet.
Ik heb mijn haar gewassen.
Dus vandaag was dag.
Het was wasdag.
Ja, het is heel
Maar ik ben helemaal met een nieuwe methode begonnen.
Ja, dat
Met
zie
de
ik.
curly girl methode.
Ja, ik zie dat je iets anders gebruikt dan normaal.
Ja, ik heb allemaal nul slechte, geen alcohol en
Ja, best wel. Kun je dat met opsturen?
ik zal jou even doorsturen. Het is wel een hele opgave, allemaal proberen.
Oh, goed, doe maar doorsturen. Moet ik naar kijken?
Goed voor de kleur?
Ja, ik ben
Nou, stuur me
ik
op.
ben een heel ding met
Dat
ja.
betekent omdat ze iets anders gebruiken dan normaal. Dus dat zegt wel iets, hè?
Ik zou het niet eens durven zeggen.
Ah,
Stel dat het niet zo is.
Mag wel hoor.
Sta je daar?
Mario zei, ik gaf hem een koekje en zei hij, jij mag niet, jij moet afvallen.
Of course.
Mario.
Mario.
Dat koffieapparaat.
But that like, and then they and they can do the for next flight.
Okay ladies, we only have 15
Okay.
minutes.
Go,
Let's
go,
go.
out, out, out. Those who are not in are out.
Yes, I know. Okay, fine, right. And then, I don't know.
Slapen, that's the concept. I remember it. I remember.
Welcome to the world.
I remember.
I
I remember those. I think
That's
only.
That's this weekend.
Oh my god.
Well, not a weekend. No, each weekend is my shift. Huh?
New baby, right? Welcome. It's only 3 months.
Look at the smile on her face. Yes, someone who suffers.
No. I know.
Yeah, no, sleep is something.
Because like in Indonesia, like when anyone is just laboring and they say, okay, happy, or they say, sorry, scamming on the night, like what is it? Not sleeping on the night.
Oh yeah, like
Screaming.
Screaming, crying.
Like if someone stays up?
Stays out whole the night.
I don't know, I know
like a
in
nuit blanche in French,
yeah.
but in
Yeah, so it's kind of like happy that one.
Like happy nuit blanche.
Yeah.
well.
Shoot.
Okay, guys. Yeah.
In Pachacucha style.
What's gonna happen? What are we gonna do?
So the idea is actually how to make the Bastian like a center of change in the society, like
So actually,
change,
like,
make it hub, such kind of things.
the way we approached it was thinking that we wanted something more sustainable than what our assignment is. So we want people to pursue what we're doing now. That was kind of the idea, is how to kind of shift this assignment to the society in Eindhoven, so that more generative ideas would come along for the Park Theatre. But how we want to do that is to create stories about influencers in Eindhoven who have stories about wisdom, faith, and love, which is their values, and to inspire more people to collaborate with those people. So doing that, it's a two-way channel, so it's online and offline. Online, it's going to be a platform where Park Theatre collects these stories and highlight. It's kind of like let's share the spotlights. So it's also related to having a stage or something, but for people of Eindhoven, and not only Eindhoveners. Like it's everyone who lives in Eindhoven, anyone who lives in Eindhoven. And sharing those stories might influence others, or might also create opportunities for collaboration. And the offline approach would be we're using the spaces of Park Theatre to kind of bringing those, maybe the kickoff of this platform would be bringing those people, the influencers, and speaking about what they are doing, and also Park Theatre initiating the collaboration between the society. And
like with local heroes or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Smaakmaker in Breda. So the objective is Eindhoven Park Theatre will make a social impact by co-creating with the people of Eindhoven by collecting their inspirational stories about faith, love and wisdom. This will be the foundation of our engagement platform. So for instance, if you look at the website Smaakmakers in Breda, which could sort of serve as an example, now it's just it's a website with all these stories of these people, and the engagement thing that you're able to with this website now is that you, me, anyone can just upload what we think, upload also a Smaakmaker. So I could nominate you and tell them why I think you're a Smaakmaker of Breda, and then if that connects with them, they'll interview you and you become original one of the Smaakmakers. But besides just having a website, obviously you want this to come alive in either like a book, or maybe you want to make an exhibition of the photos of all these people in Park Theatre. It has the 3 storylines of love, faith and wisdom. Wisdom can maybe connect already with the intellectual part of all the flex workers that are at Park Theatre. And all of that in the format of an engagement platform, and that's apparently a business model that Angelica taught us.
So we try to.
And what's the business model then?
The business model is that you create an environment of interlinked stakeholders that co-create together.
Yeah, this is kind of
And and this way, like Park Theatre would be the source of these initiatives. So it will be the place facilitating these kind of relationships to happen.
So this is kind of like the
the core or the center of this people's community.
Ah.
So because it is, we see that Eindhoven is a city that is growing in terms of entrepreneurship, innovation, and such kind of those things. There are a lot of people who do initiative, but for now, I think there is no such
No
kind
enough
of
attention for it.
But is it,
Yeah.
are they just, let's say, the physical presence of the hub or engagement platform, or how you would call it, or is it more?
Well, they have a physical location, obviously, where you as a flex worker or as a
No, of course, but I can understand if stories come,
Yeah,
and then some stories stay online, and that's fine.
yeah.
Some stories need physical representation,
Yeah.
because they need a stage or a wall to put
Yeah.
photos on or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes.
If it becomes physical, then Park Theatre is
A place.
the place to be,
Yeah.
Yes.
or, because that I can understand, is Park Theatre more than just the physical place where?
They're also the collector of the stories.
Okay, so they, yeah, so they, yeah.
So the platform will also be called Park Theatre Heroes or something.
And I do believe that also Park Theatre can bring his own challenge,
Stage.
the same one that he brought to us, to this community also.
Mhm.
Like if they want to work on the social impact, they can also collaborate with those, with other initiatives.
And where do you see the biggest opportunity in this platform? Like why do you think that this will work?
That,
What
well,
makes
the park-
what generates the idea?
the Park Theatre wants to be something more than just a theatre, and they want to grow on social impact. So if you can bring people from all kinds of interest and layers together through their stories and interconnect them through the live location of the Park Theatre or the online platform, and I don't think it should necessarily be called Park Theatre. It could be sort of like initiated by Park Theatre,
Yeah.
Powered
But
by,
but the platform itself
Standalone.
just stands alone for and by the community of Eindhoven.
But what I mean, where do you see the opportunity? Does this come?
That's the one.
Does this come from, for example, the fact that you know that there's a lot of initiatives, or that you know that there's a lot of need for sharing, or
Well,
what
We
triggers
feel,
you?
yeah, as Eindhoven being like a very creative, like when we looked at our research, turns out there's a lot of initiatives in Eindhoven, there's a lot of designers, there's a lot of freelancers, and there's a lot of opportunity if they collaborate together, that they might have a better social impact together instead of doing it individually. And what we thought about is if Park Theatre is counting on us to bring an initiative, we can give them a solution that will maybe be, they can implement it for a period of time, but what we wanted to do is give them a solution that will help them like create more solutions, yeah.
Yeah. Because the reason why I'm asking it is because in the platform as a business model is always part. It's like a diabolical triangle that is always in the way when you launch a platform, and that is the fact that nobody goes to a platform where nothing is on, and nobody puts anything on a platform where nobody goes.
So money-wise,
Well, not so much money-wise, but even if it's just an idea and it's for free, like it's easy to think of earning models or existing business models for a platform with a lot of attention, and then if you have a platform, then the earning models are there are a million options how to make it sustainable. But the challenge is always the road towards and what you see is that if this would be the diabolical triangle of the platform, and here is your platform where there's a lot of people, and this is the side where the stories have to come in, and this is the side where it has to be shared, then they have to start with one of the two. You never have both. So you never have a platform where, like I said, nobody goes to a platform where there's no content, and nobody puts content on a platform where nobody goes. So you have to start either with first have a lot of traffic in a certain space, a lot of attention for a place, and then people will share their stories there, because they see if I share my story there, there will be an audience. Or the other way around, you have a collective of stories, and then if you have a collective of stories, then people will think, okay, that's where I have to go. But you have to have the danger is always in the approach. Like, where do you start? That's my question. Like, in your explanation, in your business case, I want to know how do you make it? How do you convince me that this platform will exist?
So the idea is like this. This is the Park Theater, and what they do is actually bring the performers in the theater and give it to the consumers, the people, right? And so how if the performers actually is the Indofil people, so what they do is collecting stories from Indofil people and expose it in the Park Theater in the terms is in the online platform and maybe social media and booths and also exhibition. And also maybe a stage, it's kind of workshop or such kind of those things. So the plan is the first, what we will do, no, not we, what we propose to be done is the first is collecting the stories in Eindhoven. So it's then maybe the team from the Park Theater. So we will have maybe like 100 stories of Eindhoven, such kind of those things. And then we do the launching. And then the book launching, because like everyone always like to be in the book, of course. So the book launching and also the workshop from the chosen people, from those heroes, and also the launching of the website and the social media. Maybe we can create a video at YouTube and such kind of those things and make it viral.
And then success stories about like certain collaboration that took places because of this platform.
But step one is getting the 100 stories.
Yes.
But the power, of course, is that you also, what normally two-sided platforms don't have, is that they don't have an offline environment.
Yes.
And here if you have it and you use it in a smart way, you can have mini events in the offline, in the theater, to help launch or get.
And I think it's a modern way of theater, because now the old-fashioned way is I'm a person and I'm going to the theater to receive stories of performers. But now, all of a sudden, I don't have to be on that stage to also be performer / storyteller.
Yeah, you offer the stage, you make the stage function offline.
Okay, I like the concept, I see the opportunities. Yeah. Now I'm a devil's advocate. How are we going to, because my suspicion would be that this platform only reaches the usual suspects. The creative class in Eindhoven that is already connected somehow to creativity, cultural exposure, being influential, political, social, not the poorest people. How do we get, let's say, people that don't have a lot of money in Eindhoven connected to this platform?
The vision of the platform.
Yeah, so but also making sure that it's not more of the same.
Yeah.
Let's say high culture, low culture issues. What can you think of in terms of approach that you reach a sort of a target group that has not been reached yet? Because I agree with you that now it opens the door for people that would normally come and just consume. They can also be creative themselves by bringing their stories. Yeah. But I would suspect, again, devil's advocate, it's probably me, and I also visit regularly in the theater, and now I also become an artist in a way myself. But Thijs, being my very poor neighbor, is not activated yet. How can you connect to Thijs as well?
So our plan is actually collecting stories not only from creative workers but also from other people, like everyone who make initiative, everyone who make change, and it can be anywhere and can be anyone.
It can be an immigrant.
Of course, but how it can be anyone. But how I want to see an engagement plan.
Yeah.
You need to think of things that ignite.
This is what I mean with the road.
Fire up.
But what I like is if we look at the Park Theater already, in an appreciative way, they already reach out to certain target groups that are not immediately connected with the theater. They do that through those long table events. They do that through young kids that are kind of like MBO, Niveau 1, whatever.
To do like vocational training.
So they already have a great reach out projects towards these initiatives. And I think our stories / engagement platform can actually make those initiatives or give them a stage. Now they just happen, and you read about it if you go on the website of Park Theater or you pass by a flyer. But yeah, the neighbor guy doesn't know about this, and this platform can actually also give those already existing initiatives a stage.
Okay, so that's step one of your engagement plan.
Yeah,
To channel what is already going on.
yeah,
Yes.
that's also.
I
the
see that
imagineering
the
way.
platform could be the sort of a gateway to reach them anyway, but it won't happen if you don't have also a strategy.
But what if the initiatives we're aiming for are the social impact? To have a social impact with those initiatives. We don't want projects that are profit-oriented, but we want to create the social impact, to co-create the social impact.
Okay, but then you have to come up with rules and regulations or something. You have to organize it that this happens. If you want to stop commercial initiatives,
Well,
for example,
Stop it. Can all be there.
yeah. But so stopping is one way of dealing with the issue, but inviting, let's say the real target group, more.
Now it's happening because I went to Park Theater in the last Saturday when there is an event between Park Theater and Duas also, I think. And they have like a exhibition, mini, but the problem is not much people.
We were just
come through.
wondering how long you guys still need.
3 minutes.
15 minutes we had, right? So
Yeah, you just left 10 minutes ago.
No, we left like 20 minutes ago.
No,
we
no,
went
no.
at 10 past.
I looked at the clock. We have until half, and
Okay,
then
then
the
I'm sorry
quarter
for
two, and then
interrupting.
because you have to leave at 4, right?
Okay.
So now we have 1 more minute
One
extra.
more minute. Okay, but we
Yeah.
indeed 3 minutes, so we have to get to the essence. Like, are there for you guys now, in terms of what you are handing in, is it clear what is expected?
Do you
Is it
think you
clear?
have some questions that in the presentation should be answered regarding our project? Like if you give us the questions, then we can think about it to have answers. Like, for example, how are we engaging the people?
Well, for me, it would be the most important one. The road towards the platform is often forgotten. So that do not start from the point where you okay, we get 100 stories, and then we start selling them. But how do you get the people of the 100 stories engaged, and how do you get not 100, but how do you get 100 people who are actively involved in this platform? It's not like they give you a story and then you put it on the platform and then you never hear of them again and the story goes back and forth. It's a continuous process, so it's 100 persons that are included and that are active. So how do you get that? How do you get there? That's something that I would like to see.
And then in terms of the financial aspect, with an engagement platform, there's a social value, psychological value, and economical value. But I find it very hard to give an answer on the economical value now, in terms of obviously building a platform that costs money, together with people pushing time towards collecting stories, making sure the engagement platform comes to life, and
just the publishing it and everything.
yeah. How can we
Yeah,
calculate
say like
that?
how
How
much
does
money
that
will
work?
we
What
have?
kind of answers do you need from
Estimated
us?
guesses.
Yeah, but let's say the financial part is not the biggest. I don't see big investments required
Yes.
because
Okay.
yeah, the platform in itself, the website, yeah, a couple of €1,000. That can be probably by a subsidy from the municipality. That doesn't even have to be funded by or any other.
Or their
Party.
own funds, the
If they-
things,
if- yeah,
things
if they have.
initiative,
Yeah.
Sponsorship, there is.
And then yeah, like they says, the plan how to get from A to B. So I don't see big financial, as long as you don't start paying for stories and stuff like that, there will not be any money involved.
Yeah, but you need that photographer that
Yeah.
takes a good photo, the
Yeah.
stories need to be, so
Yeah,
that-
there's
so at the end of the
investments.
day, there's
Yeah.
quite some money.
But I like the idea of, and this is probably possible, if you can organize a platform like this and organize bartering, so people put in their services, the photographer making the photos is already also a story. So
Yeah.
the photographer can get exposure on the platform by giving away what is cheap for him or her, but has a lot of value for us.
So we can be a partner with them.
Yeah. So bartering as the basic idea, we do this, I would incorporate that anyway. That immediately takes it into a social
Co-creating
initiative.
and joint
Yeah.
value.
We will not use, we don't want money going from A to B. We want everybody to participate and
So even the person who's writing the story will agree.
Yes.
All right, we do have to
Yeah.
finish it up now, otherwise it's not fair for the rest. Yeah.
Are you guys here next Tuesday morning again? Or any of you in terms, because I think
But
Then
it's
we
okay
have
to
a-
use this rather than the Osterwolder's campus, right?
The Osterwalder is really
Tool.
just a tool.
Okay.
And
if this
this
suits
is
your,
where the
If this-
engagement.
yeah,
suits
if
your
you use
idea and you can
anything.
explain better what you want to do,
Yes.
by using this one, use this one.
Right.
Tuesday morning you have a guest lecture, right?
Do we?
Tuesday you have a
I
guest
thought
lecture.
Tuesday morning we had time to work.
Tuesday,
The 11th,
I thought
The-
the one that passed, Tuesday.
Okay.
next Tuesday the
All right.
11th. We have time to work, right? That was it. Yeah,
On Tuesday morning is working.
yeah.
All right.
If there's no teacher available
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
or, I don't know.
Well,
I can check.
this is my schedule.
Yeah, but I will definitely have time, I don't know exactly when.
It's interesting
during
day,
the
also,
day.
but
Yeah, and otherwise, Guido, I will just hunt you down.
No, exactly. I have a lecture from 9 till 10 and the rest of the day I'm available.
Okay, great, thanks.
good luck.
Ja, bedankt. Hello.
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 The other group wants to go first.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we were third because Iris needed to go at 4. Louis.
oh.
So if you beat them up,
Huh?
if you beat them up, then you can,
It's easier to let them go.
that's too appreciative.
Too appreciative, ja. Ja, het is ook wel. Het is ook wel lastig, hè, maar ja, goed, in die finance.
Nou ja, dan is het dit jaar minder belangrijk.
Ja. Die moet wel goed in zijn, die moet wel. Dus het is zo.
Ja.
Hallo. Ah, shoot. Paper. Dan move the laptop.
Okay, so we can start with the idea itself. This is the canvas for the new idea. But do you have the picture?
Yes, so,
Fun.
yeah, you can picture yourself walking around Eindhoven when you see, I'm gonna wait for it.
Oh,
Do you know how to, if that says some.
I'll open it.
Wait for it.
No, it won't
It won't, it won't work. Okay, so you see in the top corner here.
Oh, no, it's
large-
switched.
Oh,
Oh, I have it, I
There
have
it
it, we already
is, that's what you see.
I see karaoke, I'm already in. Alright, yeah.
So this will be a large, clear box or container. Yeah, that is in a public area. And inside of it, it will have one of a few different sort of interaction catalysts, such as karaoke could be one, or a bunch of instruments like you have at the station, like there's a piano that's just open. They'd be very easy to play instruments. And other ideas that we have there, like the long table would be one that they already have. And then there would be art supplies around the outside of the box with volunteers who are, Park Theater volunteers who are there, who would be able to give people the art supplies so they can decorate the box themselves. And this is under the concept of urban fusion, because we were researching subsidies in Eindhoven, and they have one for urban initiatives, which is urban culture. And urban art was one example, so like graffiti kind of. So this would be the citizens of Eindhoven, anyone who's interested can decorate this box in their own style. And different boxes we think can have different themes, so they can be designed by different artists or local artists, or they can have, like monthly themes. They can be decorated under that vision. And then the different things that are inside of it will also be available at Park Theater. So
right now at Park Theater, if you go to the left side of the stage, the Seats to Meet is there. So to the right side, it's mostly empty. So we could put these different tools there, like.
Or they're in the park theater, or through the city?
Both. Yeah.
Both.
Yeah. So throughout the city, these boxes would be there, and then at Park Theater, just the contents of the box. So a karaoke machine, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And that would again only be used at designated times when there's not a show going on, when it's quiet or that sort of thing.
So do you have programs?
We think of it as the things inside of the box are our connection catalysts, our games, our fun things,
Mm-hmm.
and those will always be present at Park Theater. And the box is the kind of art container around it that will be at different parts of the city, and that people can decorate and use to kind of show their identity and connect with other people.
Hmm.
So that's the overview, and we'd love your feedback.
All right. Okay. The feedback on the and what is the, how did you come to this idea? Because I think that's a very important one. What is the, why is it a box?
Well, we had a brainstorm session,
Uh-huh.
a few actually,
Yeah, a lot.
and we created a vision. And first we were inspired by the long table. So if you actually look back at it now, the vision that we created was actually already the DNA of the long table.
Mm-hmm.
So what we thought was really important, I'm just looking for it, are the common ground, I can't find it, common ground, interaction, and
Part of society.
be part of society. So we did the crazy 8, so we have a paper and then you have to come up with 8 ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And we just came up with so many ideas, and then we went to look if they would all fit into these values.
Mm-hmm.
And the ideas that did are still available, and the ideas that didn't fit the values are thrown into the trash. And we couldn't really choose. We were like, everything is actually a very good idea, so what are we going to do with this? And then Femke came with the idea of the urbanization, right? She came with urban fusion, because she works at the municipality, so she has access to many papers about the funding. And we were thinking about, okay, how can we make sure that this is, and the urban, and the values, and these interaction catalysts, that's how you call them. First we decided, okay, why not do everything in the theater, but make it also visible through the city. And then we decided, okay, so how can we do that? And we came with the idea of the box that still doesn't have a name yet.
Okay. And so it plays into these values that you've...
Yeah.
Okay. And your question is feedback. I like the idea. And what is your? Did you have already a sketch of the business case behind this? Like in terms of an idea of what does it? Can you capture what it brings in and capture what it needs?
We didn't make it yet, but we already discussed a bit about it.
Yeah.
So, for example, the visitors will come more often during the day because there's more to do at the Park Theater. But also the box, maybe you can rent it for a meeting or something in a special place, or what else?
I think generally we're thinking it wouldn't make money. It would be mostly marketing, especially the boxes out in public areas. Would just be to gain awareness for Park Theater and their initiatives. And that was kind of a discussion that we would be interested in feedback on. Is, do you think, like, how closely should they be related? Like the box and Park Theater's offerings, because we could see it on one side that they're totally separate. That the box is kind of just the societal initiative to connect people. On the other hand, it could be that that's where they do kind of advertising for their shows. Like they could have, if they're having a certain dance performance, the dancers could be there during the day doing a performance and say, oh, you want to see more?
In your analysis, to what you looked at, like the goals of Park Theater and their ambitions and reason for existence.
Yeah.
Like to what of those goals, etc., does it mostly
speak to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for this one it would be the society, and they said touch people. Like that was their vision. Yeah. So we think through this one it would be that, someone's just walking through the city, has some free time, and they see this, and it would be that they'd be inspired, that they'd have sort of an emotional response to it, that they could connect with other people. So that would be kind of their
the Park Theater has touched them. Kind of.
Oh my god, it still sounds so
Sounds
disgusting.
Yeah. This doesn't really translate well, huh?
No.
Somebody touch. No, but I see it more as a sort of a satellite stage, and then you can use it as a marketing
Yeah.
initiative, but it
Yeah.
also generates it brings the creativity, or it creates the spot where the creativity can be done and harvested, but it's also a two-way communication, because you could show what is going on the upcoming week.
Yeah, you can
in
choose
the-
yourself
yeah.
what you put inside.
And if you, like you started to explain, if you have, let's say, the same creative tools and instruments that are in the box that are also available if you are, let's say, in the lobby or wherever in the Park Theater, then it really makes sense to invite people. Okay, you like the box, now come to the Park Theater and do it again, or bring friends or whatever. So then you can sort of create
The lure to.
the spillover
Yeah.
that, also incorporates a multiplier somehow. I was wondering a bit, how do you see it as mobile, or
I think that we.
because it needs to move around in the city, otherwise you can't take it to the specific areas.
Yeah, probably it would be in the same place for like a weekend or a week. And then you could move that box, or you could take just the contents of it out and switch it out. So this weekend it's karaoke, next weekend it's instruments, next weekend
Depending on what's going on at the Park Theater?
could be, yeah.
Could be.
Or it could
But-
be totally separate.
But the box
But
doesn't
yeah.
have a fixed place, because you could argue, we put it in the center of Eindhoven,
Yeah.
at Stratenseind or whatever,
Mhm.
and it stays there.
Yeah.
But if you want to do, let's say, a real reach out where you want to touch,
Lots of people.
Yeah.
then you also have to go to Woensel and
Yeah.
whatever.
But in terms of if you ask feedback on the concept, and I think that feedback should be focusing now on, okay, you're gonna hand in a document, what should be in it, you know, and what do we want to see, then I would like to see very much the justification of why this box, where does this
Yeah.
come from, you know,
Yeah.
and not just the creative session that you have to come up with a nice creative idea, but where does it fit in the story and the mission and vision of Park Theater and their ambitions, and how does that contribute? And then after that, an indication or an estimation on what does it deliver. Like, and that's the business case approach of it. And you can use any model or theory that you want, but what value or money or connections or etc. does this deliver, and what is needed for that delivery? So that we can make the commission can make an investment decision, like, shall we do this box or not? And that there's a blue guy and a red guy in the commission, that the red guy says, oh, I love this, contributes so much to my goals and what I want to reach, and the blue guy says, hey, and it's also doable, it's realistic, it's achievable. That decision has to be, we have to be able to make that, to look at it in that perspective and make that decision. So that's what I would like to see in your plan, and we don't have a lot of time now left, but like, where do you see for yourself in the product that the presentation that you're going to give, and the things that you're doing right now with the group, do you feel that you have that information at hand, or do you feel that you have that plan in that sense written?
It's not all written yet.
No, of course.
But it makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
It didn't fall out of the sky. It's not like, it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You leave that up to us.
No, but
If you envisage, where would you envisage problems or difficulties in implementing this? So who do you have, for example, the staff of Park Theater say, this is ridiculous,
Yeah.
we are not going out in the cold, I applied for a job at a theater, I'm no show artist, clown in the center of the city, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, whatever organization that you have to take care of in your implementation plan, so that because physically, I mean, it's easy to do it,
Yeah.
probably. It's a simple idea, and that's why it's probably a good idea. But now, how do you take it to the launch?
How detailed do you think we should be with regard to like that? For example, I'm thinking about what problems could happen, like maintenance, like there's bad weather, it gets damaged, things like that. Like, should we be looking
That's
into
already too operational.
Okay.
Because what is it that you need to influence with your, let's say, enthusiasm, that you get support? more than
The
making sure that
details.
the wheels are oiled or whatever.
Okay.
So the detailed level is just to determine a few examples of what can be inside the box?
Yeah, to illustrate. I wouldn't.
Yeah, but that's where you have the
Go big on
opportunity
that.
to go to connect to the vision, mission, and goals of the organization. And what you do with it and in it, that should be in line with add to their strategy,
Yeah.
their objectives. So custom.
I think the power is that if you can make it interactive. So if it's just an extension, for example, if you would only use it as a sort of a marketing tool, next week in the Park Theater we have
No.
Thijs and his band, and now he's playing a song for you already. That would be too simple.
Yeah.
How then engage the audience that is gathered around?
No.
Are they going flash mob, karaoke, whatever? So how do you establish co-creation?
Yeah, so for the revenue stream is an X and a question mark. Yeah, that could do a little. But the revenue doesn't have to be in money, yeah. So that's also the case. So.
Yeah, Paulina, you had a great sentence yesterday about.
But the nice thing it is, it's also not impossible. I mean, if I spend 10,000 euros on this, I can also make a business case that it could, if it brings in more people,
Yeah,
to the regular.
throw in your sentence.
Oh yeah, I think it's mostly fits to the developer position. So it's more that wanting to create Parks here as a space, a platform where you could interact and connect to other people without feeling awkward.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our main
Okay.
Park
idea.
Theater would provide this space
Yeah.
where you could
Because
meet
it-
other people in a different way
Yeah.
than you would normally do.
Yeah.
Because then would really use the large space that Park Theater has and have some event going around there, some some place where you could exchange with people there. So it will be one place with filled with interactions and completely fine to interact. And a box is of course more like conveying our point of view to the other world.
And then with the platform, there's always the discussion we had with the other group also, and I repeat it. It's that nobody goes to a platform where there's nothing on, and nobody puts anything on a platform where nobody goes. And if you start both legs of that platform with zero, then it's very, so you have to have one of those two. So either you have to have a place where there's a lot of traffic and a lot of space so it will be interesting for people to offer something, or you have to have a lot of offer where it will be interesting for people to go to. So and for the plan, that part of the approach for this also is also very important. Like, make it realistic for us that this will work. So also really think it in that terms, like how do we get the ball rolling and not just assume that there is a place where people come and offer is offered and that it will exist, but also be realistic in the approach. Yeah. Okay.
And again, let's say the engagement. Last night, I don't know what program it was on, but it was really nice. And my wife said, would this work? And I said, I think it would work. There was a guy in a park, and he was sitting there with a beer, and he started singing a Bon Jovi song. And the park joined.
Oh, I've seen that video.
Yeah, that was great. Something like that needs to happen here as well. So it needs to be so inviting, so creative, that people start participating. And not just, let's say, become an audience. That's also already good, but I think it can be more.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Very concrete idea though, very tangible. Very good. That's good.
Yeah, and I see the opportunity to take it into different areas of Eindhoven.
You
So
need
not where everybody goes, but also to special places.
Could be on
And
festivals
maybe,
too.
but also on social media, the box will be
There, that's next.
there and there,
Definitely
next
get
to.
free publicity as well.
Yeah, that's something you can expect. But like the road towards is important, and the justification for the concept. Where does your process, your engineering tools you've used, your engineering goggles that you've put on and approach their mission and vision and challenge, and why this concept would be the solution to it. Okay, good. We have to go to the next group.
And what I like is it's also scalable, and you can take it to other cities. You can, if it works, then it can become a movement.
We have Dutch Happiness Week, so soon
Voor jou nog even die pitch. Laten we gewoon de reset rollen. Ja, dat moeten we even inplannen. Dan ben jij daar gewoon mee.
Ja.
Gaan we gewoon vanuit inhouden, dan is het gewoon oké. Maar anders
is
is
die
voor jou dan nog extra.
Zijn er nog wel niet?
What language is
Zijn
this?
er nog
We hebben de beoordeling nog niet, maar over het algemeen zijn er meestal wel Engels. Normally there are receipts.
For the pictures.
What I
Oh.
also offered already with the other group is, because next Tuesday you have sort of free time to work on it, so there's no program. Tuesday,
Oh.
apparently.
Still-
So I come in the morning, so if we can do more or less the same, if you want to sort of have a recheck or something,
Yeah.
or discuss something. So I have a lecture from 9 to 10, and then I come upstairs, and you will be around
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
somewhere, if you are working here.
I don't know.
I s-
We can, yeah.
No, yeah, if you want to,
Yeah.
or send me an email that
Yeah.
you're not there at 10, but you are there at 12, that's also good.
Okay.
Yeah?
Alrighty,
Thank
okay.
you, thank
Good.
you.
Are we after this continuing the class or not?
No, I think it's more or less
So
done.
we can go home?
Yeah.
We're dismissed.
Yes.
Bye, thanks.
Bye bye.
Maar dat was heel grappig, die kerel zat daar gewoon op zijn bank. Op zijn
Ja, echt niet.
En die begon gewoon,
Bon Jovi te zien.
ja. En dat zag ik hier in het park wel helemaal gebeuren. Zeker als het op een zomeravond zeg maar druk is.
Kan je dat vinden?
Ja, maar
Yes.
Houdoe.
Oké, nog een keer. Hallo.
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 Ah, hier. Deze.
Ja.
Nou ja, ik zal even. Well, hello.
Hallo.
And how are you?
Okay.
A lot of sides,
I just had a discussion.
which makes you sigh.
And
Or was
it's
it,
tiring day.
was it a discussion or an argument?
No, it's a discussion about what
A
we should
heated
focus on.
argument.
It's not heated.
I'm joking.
No. We were talking about, we were going very much into detail, and then I said maybe we should do the back and zoom out, and we were discussing that we should do that.
Okay, but that's good to have you that we have this discussion now.
Yeah, but we actually have different questions for you,
Good.
Okay.
because
Aha.
we made a current business model and our new business model, and we put it in the canvas, and we want to kind of describe our concept maybe, because through processes, which we will explain to the customer of course, we got to our concept. We actually reframed the vision into making it, making the Park Theater an iconic landmark in the Netherlands. Help me out with what's the rest again.
Yes.
Iconic landmark.
Bringing
An
the
iconic
park
land.
into the
But
theater.
yes.
bringing the park in the city, yes.
Open green building across the close to each other.
Yes.
Helping the planet. Oh yeah.
So the idea is, our concept is called United Through Nature, and the idea is to focus not on customer segment, which is segmented by demographics, so no baby boomers, no students, but to focus on interests, like a hashtag works, and the customer segment for us are technology enthusiasts that are curious about sustainability, so that you have a whole wide range of elderly people as well as younger people that will be connected through green and sustainability, because I thought that technical people are as much in environmentally friendly solutions as gardening grandmas are.
Eindhoven being a pretty technical hub.
Connecting.
Might
Yep.
be nice to connect them as well with something that has
Nature.
future aspirations, so nature, but also green energy. So
And
it could be
based on
anything.
the place, the concept, the home is then the theater. So that your
Yeah, the
concept
park.
really
That's
revolves
kind of
around
the platform.
the location, the building.
So the main idea is that Park Theater becomes the educator and
Yeah.
the connector of educating in terms of sustainability, but also connecting people from technology backgrounds, maybe together with other disciplines.
And the recommendation is for the Park Theater to focus on becoming a platform meaning that they're gonna look at what they can get in, like award shows, more performances, different type of competitions they will organize themselves, but also what they can contribute. So what can they, how can they educate their surroundings on what sustainability and performance arts are to them.
I can add that our concept, United Through Nature, has a long work behind, from us and also Meryl and Linda. It means united. It means that it's welcoming everyone. Through nature, nature has two meanings. First, of course, the opportunity we have, like a natural tech hub in the middle of a park, and also nature means to show our own nature, and it's so close to a performance. When you see a performance, you see something on yourself, you reflect. And that's why the concept is United Through Nature.
With a link to true nature.
Yeah,
like you're showing your true nature.
Show your true nature.
But then it's close to identity. In the meaning of the word nature.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Ah, so the audience has to think now.
Mm-hmm.
Double meaning.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. I like the concept. And I'm curious, how did you get to this concept? What was the process that you went through to get to this concept?
We were trying to do the A phase, so we were trying to get the golden nuggets.
Yeah.
But it was so difficult that we were looking into, okay, so what do we have in terms of facts, which were not a lot because most of them were opinions
Yeah.
from what we saw and the opinions class gave us. And then we saw a gap in that they were too broadly focused. Or it's like they didn't have a direction.
Yes.
And then we thought of the park, and that was our main link. And why not use the park if you have it? And then how can we connect the park with the theater? And then we got to nature, but we also go to human interaction.
Yeah.
We slowly got there.
And in terms of the business case behind it, like to what core elements of the vision and mission and goals of Park Theater does this play into most?
The connecting part.
The connecting part.
So how do you really connect?
Okay, and how do you have a way of justifying that?
Yeah, we did all the suggested tools of the guide. Everyone was in charge of one part. Guys, you both did the SWOT, and I did the benchmarking in the Word. Meryl did
the MESO, the competitive competition.
Yeah, it's like
So
really like the marketing style analysis of the environment and everything.
Yes.
And then looking at the so what and then what was the answer? What was below the bottom line? Like what's the sales pitch that you had? How would you sell it to the Park Theater?
Ladies did SWOT, and based on weaknesses, which can be in strength, come up with a new vision and mission, and then we started to think about new concept.
And I think adding to that, it's like our marketing research was kind of like our appreciation phase, because we knew that the company was not going to understand all our vague different appreciation things, so we thought maybe we should start with their language in order to end with their language. And in the breathing phase, we actually saw that it would be very difficult to focus on the strengths and opportunities, which we wanted to appreciatively see where we could get from. And then we had some key insights. Okay, we see a comparison that we think that their vision and mission could be improved, and they think their vision and mission could be improved. And they are very open-minded, so that therefore became our starting point to reframe the vision.
Yeah. A bit, maybe to make it more appealing, we saw that in other theaters in the world, they have some elements that make them very well known by the community. And
like what? Do you have
like
an example?
what?
Like do you have
yes. Yes, you will see in the episode. We have a lot of examples.
And I think we picked out the ones that had
Can you give
actual
one just to
nature.
give me a feeling for what you mean?
For instance, the MGM, the Park
Yeah.
Theater Las Vegas,
Yeah?
they are very well known because they are the ones that
Statue of
display.
Liberty. Oh no, the Eiffel Tower is there. Or where is it?
Also, yes, but you see, MGM, you think Cher is going to perform there, like top artists are in
Yeah,
this theater. Las Vegas, Luxor, like you have awareness of what's going on there. But what's going on in Eindhoven Theater? We're not sure, and we're trying to give a new identity really strong that can be held by the
So not
city.
only the focus will be on performances, but it shifts a bit to having this role into society.
Yeah. So then in the end, in Las Vegas, they'll be saying, have you heard about the Park Theater? Yeah, it's the theater with the
It's
park inside.
sustainability, and we
Yes.
have the plants inside, and it's all green. That's our
You
goal.
see, you say, I don't know.
Where's the connection element also?
What values do you connect to nature or to a park that we then could sort of put in place inside the Park Theater in props or whatever? Because I think that's more or less putting a green plant there or having a green wall or that's too simple. I mean, I can think of it, so that means it's too simple. So you need to find a way to distinguish the specific nature-related values and see how they can become part of the Park Theater. I like the idea that you connect it also to the city with the technology, because Eindhoven is iconic for the technology part. And it looks a bit like the example that I had with the Toronto Zoo, where you also had the change of perspective of the zoo becoming, let's say, the platform to educate inhabitants of Toronto, but also businesses, about their ecological footprint.
Yeah, it is something similar.
Yeah, so that's more or less the same move that you want to make.
Yeah.
It's still, there's still animals in the Toronto Zoo, but it has become sort of the backdrop of a more an educational, wider.
Yeah, we really wanted to do something like
idea.
that because they give us, they asked us to give another role in society. So we really focused on that and how can we do that by becoming an educator, a platform.
Yeah.
I think it was you also who mentioned that they were already looking into platform theory as well as something like you.
And then if you look at it's going to be, if you look at the concept of the business case, what you're looking for in that sense is that you also think about the road towards the business case, so that it's always easier.
How do you get from A to B?
Yeah.
What needs to be organized to get the transformation either ignited, and then you stop there, or even if you can take it further, how can you move
But
towards
the
implement-
changes in the business models.
Yeah, but
Those
also
first
the sort of
steps.
trying to think ahead, what do we need to do first? For example, create a green environment.
Like an action plan.
Yeah, but don't go into detail.
Well, the justification, like in the end, you have to present it that there's a blue guy and a red guy in the jury for your presentation, and you have to present this case, and then both the red guy has to say, hey, this really contributes to our core strategy and values. I really want to do this, and the blue guy says, hey, and it's feasible too, and we believe that you can make that this will work. And in order to be able to say we believe that this can work, you need to have some kind of roadmap, like how will you. Because it's a platform and there's a lot of platform ideas, and often we say the same thing, but nobody goes to a platform where nothing is on, and nobody puts anything on a platform where nobody goes. So one of the two, or there needs to be a well thought through approach. Like first we start maybe with a large audience, or with a large with whatever, or through events we get people in, and then we launch the concept, or we build a park and then we have a good justification.
But how do you harvest this, your new defined target group? How and when, why are they coming?
Yeah.
And how do you now reach not the usual suspects? Because the creative people and the cultural lovers in Eindhoven, they will be there anyway. They will come. But now, how about Thijs living in Woensel Noord on a minimum income, 10 kids, not enough time to live, and how can you touch him as
Criminal past?
criminal past if need be?
So we need a
Hooligan.
marketing strategy.
No, but I mean, one of the things is that they wanted to do was, at least it's my interpretation, is they wanted to reach out and reach new groups that extend what they already are servicing with their theater.
Can be our start as one of our key activities. Just for example, as you said, that we need to start this platform from something to engage people or to go to people. If we describe one of our key activity as a start.
The ignition.
Yes.
Yeah. Where do you ignite it? What actions do you take? Basically, it all adds to. If you want to get an investor across the line, you just have to push the right buttons and use examples and etc. Yeah, so that could work.
But the reason why should also be very clear. Like you cannot just say, okay, and then to start it off, we're going to organize a long table session. I have to explain why, for instance, we want to the first steps towards becoming a platform will be attracting more customers, and for that reason. But I don't know if that's
I just was thinking about, for example, if we can use what we were discussing with long table as a why. It will be because people already know about it.
That's the other way around, though.
Yes, if for example we modify what they already have as a long table, we modify it and use it as a first step to engage more people to our platform.
But what is the, what is the long table?
It's a project they have already.
Yeah, the concept they have already.
Based on loneliness, so it's a long table, just like this, but then longer.
Okay.
And then they want to bring people together. So if you're alone, you go to this table in order to meet other people who are alone as well.
Okay.
For the performance. So it becomes less of a taboo to go alone.
Yeah.
Taboo?
Because we were thinking, for example,
Table.
yes, if to use a table as a, I'm sorry if I'm going too much, but I wanted to ask if we explain it as a first step, it can work. Can it?
Sure.
But we should explain why the why first.
Yes.
Not the key activity first, and then explain why we would do it.
No. I'm
You want to hear you want to hear the big line, so the red thread of your concept and how you got to it and what it plays into and how it helps, and then you support that with examples.
Suggestions. So this is one of the suggestions we can do.
Yes.
There are many options.
Yes.
Yeah, but as an example of the support of the whole story.
If I understand right, we need to come up with a tool, and from that hopefully emerges the thing we come up with.
A process. So you mean with
we
a
give a
tool?
start, we do an intervention, and from that we hope that this platform of education emerges. Is that the idea? Or would that be too vague?
What makes it work?
What makes it?
And so you can organize this all, you can reshape it. So from the, let's say, the physical appearance, it's the way you want it to be.
Yeah.
But how did you get the people in?
Yeah.
That so that they can connect to it.
You want to know how to get to people, or how we came up to the results we have?
Both, because
Both.
they want.
As an Imagineer, I expect you also to accept the to deal with the complexity and the uncertainty and things like that. That normally, if I would ask a marketing bureau for a new concept to help my goals, they would look, okay, what are your goals? Okay, these are your goals. We will create this, and it will lead to more of your goals. But in your case, I expect you to ignite processes and maybe even culture change and get people involved and co-create and and that is something more difficult maybe to explain.
Yes.
I do expect that you will give us the feeling with your plan that you will stimulate that process, that the process will be ignited and that it will lead to improvement.
Would you have a good example?
A good example of a previous written report for this?
Well, yeah, previous tool that ignited this process.
For the park theater?
Just an example to get a...
Okay, we might have some, I think we have loads in the... I think that if you would look into the database of for example, the thesis assignments that the engineers have done in the previous years, there's millions of examples of processes.
But it could be an event or.
An event could be that an example. That would be an example.
I think.
Example then. Just for me.
Yeah, the problem is, I have an idea what I would do, but that is, I mean.
I want to know.
Yeah, for example, if you have what would you do in a park? In a park, you could do a picnic.
Yeah.
So I think we discussed it as well. But then the idea was to have a picnic in the park outside.
Yeah.
But you could still mix it and show people that there's now a park feeling or a park experience in the park theater. Everybody brings their own stuff.
But that would be an event.
Yeah, as a sort of a launching event, or.
And what about the people who have whole other different ideas when you say, what do you do in the park?
Yes.
Yeah.
The park is not a park, it's nice open for everyone.
To the park.
Rob people.
And then again, I think that should derive from the question, like how are you going to attract people to your launch? And then the answer could be a picnic. Could not come up with a picnic. And oh yeah, we could attract people with this particular.
Exactly. That's the that's a
way
good
of phrasing.
Yeah, like how that's ignition. Like how do we get people to co-create, to come up with their own ideas, and you facilitate the concept of the park, and you facilitate the concept of this new road that will help, but not steer it that much that you will say, okay, now on Wednesday from 2 to 4 there's a picnic. You have to bring this and this, and then you can participate in a picnic and then share. Also, that it comes from the community itself.
And maybe one of the creative or theater groups, amateur or semi-professional in Eindhoven, can come up with a performance that has this as a theme and open it up for free. And have people come to that performance and slowly sort of edge into the value proposition that has changed.
So if I understand right, we need something by what people will know about our new concept and about our new platform.
Yeah, you have an idea for an ideal situation with your platform. But for the platform you need people and you need content. Like, what's the road towards that success? Like, how will you get there? What will you do to ignite the process that we will get there? But in terms of your report, I think that's based on you have a concept. What we expect, if we hit it flat, if we come back to the essence, then you have a concept. And we want to know, okay, why is this concept a good concept? What does it bring us? And what does it cost? And the second part, what is the road towards the establishment of this concept? So like really like an investment pitch. And in an investment pitch you have to convince the investor to step into this thing. And for that he needs to be certain that it will help the organization with its goals, is feasible, etc. And that's the story, that's the way you need to tell the story.
And the key activities are not more than just fun knickknacks for them to kind of get an idea of our concept, no? Because I remember finally saw the slides yesterday, and at the last slide in capital letters it says we don't have problems to come up with activities that are creative ourselves, but it's about the story and the
key activities normally in a business case, especially in this case, the key activities are the activities you need to pursue need to execute as an organization to make this work. So your key activities would be maintenance of the park, get the park designed, marketing, acquisition, that would be your key activities. But please feel free to rate this model any way you want. Feel free to use any other model, feel free to not describe key activities that you're doing in an organization, but because the activities that you are referring to now are more part of your proposition.
Yeah, true.
They're more part of what you're doing.
Yes.
Like, the key activity is not the content. The key activity is selling tickets or maintenance of your website or the things you have to do to make this work.
But then we can use, if our key activities now, it's more to prove our concept, that our concept will work, we can use it for an answer why.
Yeah.
So we can actually use it.
Oh, what do you mean?
Yeah, but not go into much detail.
What?
not going too much into detail about these.
Yeah, I know, I'm just about that, what was the question, that we need to prove that this concept will work, and this concept is is a good concept. We can prove it by our activities, what we come up with.
No, yeah, well,
I don't think you have to prove it.
no.
I think if,
But we have, because it's not so fair to the other groups.
but if you, I think if you
Basic
not necessarily prove, but show that there is a connection between the values, and that the values come back in what you try to do, because that's the implicit idea of Imagineering anyway. If the connection at a value level, things are connected, then it will work. So you don't have to prove it actually working. If you show how they are connected from the value proposition, that should already be enough. And that's a tough thing to establish anyway.
But then if we prove that, we show that this is value, this is valuable, then we don't need to account this as a cost.
No.
We just, as a financial plan, we are showing values of it, and we don't need to account the whole cash flow.
No. So if you have suppose you don't have anything on the financial part, and I ask the question, okay, where do you see costs emerge? And if they come, how would we solve them? And then you have some sort of an answer that sounds not completely ridiculous, then it's already okay. Because the assignment doesn't lend itself to a really broad implementation of financial concepts. Because this is not about making a profit.
No.
And then all the other stuff just drops out of our hands.
Can I pitch this quickly so you give us the exact feedback to move on, like our new concept?
Well, my idea was, but
Because I think we when we leave, we're going to take many things different, just to be on the same page about the kind of detail and deepness we need to deploy.
I think I would stay away from a lot of details. That's one. And my suggestion would be that on Tuesday I'm available as well. So I can come in at your request, or I just show up at 10 o'clock or at 11 o'clock, and then we can bounce ideas again, and then you still have, but then you already, so then you can at least sort of prototype before that and do a test run.
Yes.
So I have a lecture from 9 till 10, and then on Tuesday the rest of the time I have available. So I made that deal with the other groups as well. So and I can come in at 10, but I can also come whenever you want me to. But then you have to send me an email.
We're off in the morning, right? From 10 to 12?
Yeah.
And then we have a round table from 12 to 1.
What is the round table?
Yeah, I think it's just
Do we all have to be
reflection.
there?
I don't know.
I think it's with Stephanie.
It's round table, I think it's from
I can go.
academy.
Yeah.
But we can discuss it more. Okay. We needed more than round table. Round table is more about our opinion.
Ondernemersteam. That's the more information now. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes, because this is.
It's needed, huh?
Anyone who takes this?
If you want, you can do it now.
You know.
See you all
Nobody
soon.
needs what I do.
But what you could do is look into the Toronto Zoo as well,
Yeah.
because it is online, and how they switched from, let's
I gotta run.
say,
Good luck.
Yeah, ciao.
Thank you.
showing animals to using it as an educational
Yeah.
concept
Yeah.
more.
So we need to change our key activities now.
And then they're not that relevant. You don't have to change them.
No,
but you don't
I'm
have to
just
do-
about that we need to do in a block
Just
of
need to rephrase.
key activities, we need to write something like selling tickets and everything like this.
No, we can leave it like
In the-
this. We
in the
said we
new-
could rape it the way we wanted it to.
In the new concept, you don't sell tickets, right?
No, we sell still, we say this, we
Yes.
say what they have about tickets for performances and something like that.
Yeah.
But we did, what we put in key activities
We
is,
sell tickets. We do sell tickets in the new model.
no,
In the freemium, the premium, and also in the micro theater.
Okay. What maybe is a point of attention is if you change, because I can see how you would sort of stage the theater from the inside, different. Then it will look different.
We have a competition for this.
Okay, but how is that going to affect, let's say, normal theater activities? Is it going to be positive, negative, or suppose it's all looking like a jungle inside?
Yes, and then it's positive value because people who come to theater, they want to see it and they feel as a part of our concept, united through nature.
In the new idea,
In the new.
I understand, but the regular theater goer that just wants to come and see Hamlet.
Yes, then people come and see also jungles, just as a
Okay,
fun
and how am I
feature.
going to respond to that? Is it
Yeah.
positive or negative? Or is this a sort of an environment that you can put up as a pop-up idea and put it away again if you don't need it?
Normal customers would not be very affected by this. Just maybe the design of the interior would change a bit, but
Mhm.
then I don't know how much that will affect the normal.
And it won't change
It won't
overnight.
change our normal list of performances, like the program.
I can imagine that that has hardly any effect at
Do you
all.
recommend to have an effect?
No, I don't know. I really, it's just a question that came up.
No, okay, yeah. Of course, yeah.
We
We need
just-
to explain it.
So I mean, in the extreme, but now I'm sort of internalizing. Would I go to I want to see Hamlet, and now I enter your new concept. Do I turn around or do I still
No,
see Hamlet?
you still see Hamlet because we save the performance part of the theater. So we don't change what they already have,
Mhm.
and from what they have already a nice profit.
But it will give me
Yes.
another feeling, right?
Yes, this is what it will nice emotions, new emotions, general, depends on people. New emotions and new opportunity to come back to the theater, not only for performances, but to be a part of a sustainability platform, for educational platform.
Mhm.
So we want to create this concept, but still save performances and what they have.
Yeah, that I can understand.
It can work.
Yeah.
But, for example, in business canvas, if I remember right, that's what key activities means. It's when you do general matters. When you
Yeah.
sell tickets, when you do marketing, when
But
you maintain.
you have to identify the activities that are really crucial. So you don't have to have an extended list. Only let's say the 2 or the 3 things that you have to be really, really good at. If you fail with the short list of activities, then you're in trouble.
Okay, but.
I suppose you ruin ticket sales. Yeah, then
Yes,
there's no money coming in.
No,
So that's critical.
we just did it as a suggestions
Yeah.
what they can do in a
Yeah.
theater, just as a fun to create a
Yeah.
theater in park or
Yeah.
to
But
have this competition.
what activity is critical to the success of your concept?
What activity?
Critical. So you don't have to be complete in your list, but which 2 or 3 activities are really, if you fail with these activities, or you don't organize them in a proper way, then the whole concept doesn't work.
And we need to put it in business report, we need to mention
I would do that. That would make sense. I suppose you have I don't know, you design an app to support the idea, and the app fails.
Yes,
Then the whole concept is in trouble.
Okay, I understood, thank you.
Yes.
So think about a very short list of activities, but really the critical ones. If you mess these activities up, the whole concept won't work.
Like what? Like booking the
You identify.
booking the ticket.
Yeah, or like you have an app, and the app doesn't work.
Marketing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your help.
Yeah. So yeah, let me know. I will come in at 10 o'clock then Tuesday and see if nobody's there. Then you can always.
We'll be there.
Yes.
I'm on the first floor anyway, working somewhere. So if you have a question in between, just come and ask me.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ciao. Have a nice evening.
You too, bye
You
bye.
too. And how is the hunt going for the application company? Or is that a completely other nightmare?
I think in this room I am the only one who doesn't have one yet. But I'm not worried for some reason.
Oh, okay. Is that a good idea or? It's a nice feeling,
Yeah.
but you know what you're looking for.
Yes, and I have some nice applications standing out, and I have some nice conversations to go to, so I don't know, just don't feel pressure yet. Maybe it will come if...
But are you looking something in Brabant or does it have other, needs to have other requirements?
Amsterdam, because I live there and it's nice to not
Okay.
commute that much. And furthermore, I'm just looking for a type of business with a certain culture, not as much as what they do, because I think that's more important. If they fit to the values of engineering a little bit more, I think I would feel more comfortable executing my application assignment there.
But are you looking for
At this
in
moment,
a cultural, creative environment or, I don't know, sports or
business concepts, strategy consultants, or business designers, or companies that give workshops about remodeling business structures, but also creative event design, or an award, a creativity award. And there's this 10-car company which does something with music and are also very creative, so not in a specific way, just more in creativity and events. And a young team.
just the easy stuff?
Yeah, well, not in a certain direction, so I'm not really limiting myself in that way.
No.
Which I did in the beginning.
Okay, see you next week.
See you.
Also, Vanessa is looking for something. Other Chinese.
And Iris Hermans, the girl with the curls, the blonde one, she's also still looking.
Okay.
And Daria as well.
Yeah, because we have some contact with the MRA, Metropoolregio Amsterdam.
Ah,
So that is all municipalities working together on multiple things, all kinds of offerings.
that is nice.
So, yeah, if you want to, I have one or two contacts. But they're more in the area of area development, regional development, sustainable city, dealing with tourism, over-tourism,
Oh, but that is
conflict
really
between tourism and people that live there, because inclusiveness, a big issue in Amsterdam.
Yeah,
Because, yeah, a lot of initiatives with total groups that live in Amsterdam cannot participate because it's too expensive.
yeah.
These type of issues.
I am very interested.
Okay.
Could you please put me in contact with them?
Yeah,
somehow,
yeah,
or maybe, or however you would like.
Yeah, I'll
to-
figure out who it is exactly. Maybe because I see how you react to the inclusive. I haven't dealt with the inclusive people yet. It was more about if we want to get more tourists, then we have to have I don't know, a transportation plan, because you can't have a big activity and nobody can get there. And then you have a lot of parking lot problems and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it needs to be public transport, or it needs to be hotels close by. So it's
It's a
thinking,
public organization.
yeah, and it's very political because Amsterdam, of course, is very dominant. All the other municipalities are also connected, but if Amsterdam pays for most of the initiatives, so they also want to have a big say. So it's, as a learning environment, it's really rich.
Really interesting, yeah.
But yeah, it's also a bit of there's a conflict continuously going on politically. I mean, for example, with the new government, with GroenLinks becoming more a part of the city council, in less than a year they completely changed the perspective on tourism. So now they're much more looking into the, let's say, the conflict with inhabitants and the problems that tourism gives.
That is...
And let's say 2 or 3 years ago, it was about what money can we make. But you can, So that it looks a bit like, especially people living in the center of Amsterdam are treating tourists now as 20 or 25 years ago we treated migrant workers.
It's really annoying.
You want all the people that live there, yeah, you want to keep them out, sort of. Or push them to other areas. Which is, yeah, it needs to be balanced somehow.
Yeah.
But let's say the picture that evokes is all these tourists running around with the suitcases, the rollkoffer, making a lot of sounds on their cobblestones.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I totally see you in public places.
Totally. Indeed. Thanks. I think that's a compliment.
Yes, 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 it is.
Yeah, but I will look at my, because we also work on, in my other job at South, we work together with Aaron Holland, and they are sort of specializing in this inclusive problems.
The tourism issues will be more interesting than like inclusively like LGBTQ.
Yeah. No, but inclusive then in the sense that if you have, for example, entertainment or theaters or sports activities,
yeah.
But normal people living in Amsterdam cannot pay for it because it's too expensive, or it's, yeah, it's too exclusive.
Yeah.
That's not what you want as a municipality. You want your own inhabitants. Let's say that's more or less the also a difference in vision between a leisure perspective and a tourism perspective. The leisure perspective is, let's create a city that is working for the people that live there, and if that works out well, it's also an interesting city for tourists. And the tourism perspective is to design the city activities in such a way that it's interesting for tourists. But then sort of the conflict with the inhabitants is sort of baked in. So it doesn't make sense to only approach it from the tourist perspective.
Yeah.
And that has been done over the last 20 years too much. And yeah, of course there are multiple solutions. You can distribute the people that come in, but everybody comes through Amsterdam anyway. So we can think about all these people that come in and we distribute them so that they go and then visit Brabant. But their plane lands at Schiphol. And their hotel is probably in Amsterdam as well. So they will do day trips. You can seduce that in an offering. But it will not lead to different, it will lead to more traffic maybe even, and pollution, if you don't organize it in the proper way. And the problem is, we know in the Netherlands that between now and 2030 it will double.
Yes.
Tourism streams.
It will.
So it will
it's
go
scary.
from 18 million to more than 30 million.
Yeah, it's really scary.
And then if you see the problems that we already have now, how are we then going to deal with double as much
later, yeah.
people?
But also, transportation in the Netherlands, I find it's really expensive. Like when people are coming and now every day they need like 20 euros to go from city to city, if that's a day car. And what they offer for tourists that don't know the laws here, it's 54 euros.
It's really expensive.
Yeah, for a day card.
For the, or for a fine?
No, for a day card. And for people who don't live here, like I know about the day card at 20 euros because I live here. But other people who, like as a tourist, if I come and I don't know about it, then I need to pay 54 euros.
Okay. That could be organized by better communication or
Yeah, they don't,
agencies that
like
will
the NS, the train doesn't really sell it, it's via other websites. This is the problem. And yeah, it's like the access to go on different destination every day, it becomes harder, so you spend more time.
No, but I can imagine that especially for tourists, you would have, because money-wise, finance, all the fixed costs are dealt with anyway, so why not give tourists the tourist card for 3 days?
Yeah, I
Or
asked
not-
NS for
Not
this.
too expensive.
I did ask NS if they have
Yeah.
anything for like a week or something like for tourists, and they don't have any.
No,
for-
but that will come. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
so, I can
It
imagine
needs
that
to.
is a product that you can,
I feel it needs to be like something
Yeah.
that helps.
As long as they are not in the train, let's say before 9 o'clock.
Because you have day tours that goes from Amsterdam, like for the windmills, and then back to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And then you need to go to Rotterdam and
Well,
back.
what we have is what we call reservation volume. If you travel after 9 o'clock,
Outside peak hours.
Yes.
then it's only 60%. So if you
But they don't even know about that.
no, so
Yeah,
that you have
It's
again
only
that's
if you have that card, and tourists don't really get the full card.
But also the day card stays lower because if I want to go from Breda to Den Haag, it's 10 euros. On the 60%.
after peak.
After peak hours.
Okay.
So to go and come back, it's 20 euros. But then, yeah.
Yeah, because we don't have return tickets.
Yeah,
Everything in the Netherlands is, we used to have return tickets, but everything
And
is
now
now
even the
single
day
shot.
card, it used to be like the whole day. You
Yeah,
can
yeah,
travel
yeah,
as
so
much
that-
as you want, but now it's 2 destinations. This year it started to be, like you need to specify from which city to which city and back from which city. Yeah. So it needs to be like a round trip. So if you say like Vlissingen to Amsterdam and then Amsterdam to Vlissingen.
Okay, but that's sort of product development. If
But I feel-
identified as a market to do it differently, I think the big problem is that after peak hours, if we have more people using public transport in the Netherlands before 9 o'clock, then the whole system breaks down because there's no more capacity on. If you now travel from the, I don't know, what time do you travel?
I travel by car.
Okay, because if you would use public transport, for example, at 8 o'clock, you have to stand.
Yeah, true.
Which is ridiculous. That is ridiculous for the price that you have to pay for it.
Yeah,
Because then I also want a seat.
true.
So,
But are they solving it?
yeah, they must, at some way, somehow. But yeah, they are lagging behind with planning in terms of, what they're doing now is from Amsterdam to Heerlen, so that they have a train running every 10 minutes. Instead of having a real schedule. Now the train is going, they're just going like a metro. And that is sort of creating enough capacity to have a north-south stream of people that go to work in Amsterdam and the Amsterdam area. So yeah, you also don't have to look at the clock. You just go to the station and then every 10 minutes on that line there will be a train, which is good.
We need to cut it.
It's so good.
It can be good. It's the green. You just need to cut it like this. And yeah. So it can maybe add it.
But I will look for contacts, and it's probably easy to do it at the municipality of Amsterdam. There will be a department within the Department of Economics that will deal with this problem. And it could also be a political part. Because, for example, GroenLinks is for sure
Ooh, that would be interesting.
thinking about this, or having maybe even extreme ideas.
Yes. That would be nice.
Okay, I see what I have.
That would be great. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Is that for you or no?
I still see a bag, so I think somebody is going to come back
Yeah.
for the rest of the things.
Yeah.
And then
Okay, see you.
see you.